Many people believe that meditation can only happen in silence, while sitting still. Eyes closed, letting go of all movement. But what if each step you take could lead you to enlightenment? In today's video, we'll explore a profoundly transformative yet often overlooked practice, walking meditation. This is not simply slow walking. Every step, every subtle movement you normally overlook, can actually open the door to realizing the truths of impermanence, suffering, and non-self, the three universal marks of all conditioned phenomena. You might be surprised to learn that what appears to be a single step is, in reality, made up of thousands, even millions, of micro-movements constantly arising and passing away. And if you can see that, you're coming very close to the insight and wisdom that the Buddha himself realized. Walking meditation is not just about walking, it's a journey into the true nature of body and mind. So let's take a closer look at each step, and discover how movement itself can lead to the deepest inner stillness. In structured meditation retreats, practitioners are guided to cultivate mindfulness in all four postures: walking, standing, sitting, and lying down. They are encouraged to sustain clear awareness throughout every moment, in every position of the body. Among these, however, the primary posture used in insight meditation practice is the seated position, with legs crossed in stillness. Yet the human body cannot endure this position for extended periods. For this reason, sessions of sitting meditation are alternated with walking meditation. Because walking meditation is a vital part of the practice, it is worth reflecting here on its nature, its significance, and the many benefits it brings. The cultivation of insight through meditation can be likened to the process of boiling water. First, water is poured into a pot, placed upon the stove, and the heat is turned on. But if we turn off the flame, even briefly, the water will not come to a boil. No matter how many times we restart the fire, constant interruption prevents the water from ever reaching the desired state. In much the same way, when gaps arise in one's mindfulness, the inner momentum necessary for deep concentration is lost. Without continuous awareness, true meditative stability, right concentration, cannot be achieved. Therefore, in intensive meditation practice, the practitioner is instructed to maintain mindfulness without pause, from the moment of awakening in the morning, until falling asleep at night. Walking meditation is thus not merely a break from sitting, but an essential means of nurturing unbroken mindfulness throughout the day. One unfortunate thing I often hear is criticism directed toward the practice of walking meditation. Some claim that through this method, the practitioner cannot attain any real benefit or meaningful result. However, it was the Buddha himself who first taught the practice of walking meditation. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the great discourse on the foundations of mindfulness, the Buddha mentions walking meditation twice. In the section on postures, he teaches that a monk should be clearly aware. I am walking. When walking, I am standing. When standing, I am sitting. When sitting, and I am lying down. When lying down. Later, in the section on clear comprehension, the Buddha instructs, a monk should practice clear comprehension when going forward and when returning. Here, clear comprehension means understanding precisely what is being observed. To perceive clearly, a practitioner must develop right concentration, samma samadhi, and in order to establish such concentration, one must first cultivate mindfulness, sati. Therefore, when the Buddha says, monks, apply clear comprehension, we should understand this as not merely an instruction to be aware, but to also apply both mindfulness and concentration in unison. In this way, the Buddha taught practitioners to apply mindfulness, concentration, and clear comprehension while walking, both when moving forward and when returning. Walking meditation, therefore, is not a peripheral activity, but an essential component in the meditative path. How to practice walking meditation? Although the Satipatthana Sutta does not contain detailed instructions from the Buddha on the technique of walking meditation, it is widely believed that he taught this practice directly to his disciples during his lifetime. Those instructions were likely preserved through oral transmission, learned, practiced, and passed down from generation to generation. Furthermore, the meditation masters of old must have formulated clear teaching methods based on their own direct experience. Today, we are fortunate to inherit a body of refined and detailed guidance on how to practice walking meditation properly. Now, let us look more closely at how walking meditation is practiced. If you are a complete beginner, the teacher will initially guide you to focus your mindfulness on just one simple object, the movement of your steps. You silently note in the mind, stepping, 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 or left, right, left, right. During this stage, your pace may be slower than usual. After a few hours of practice, or perhaps after 1 or 2 days of meditation, you will be instructed to focus on 2 distinct phases: the act of stepping forward, and the placing of the foot on the ground. At this stage, you mentally note stepping, placing, or step, press. You concentrate on these 2 phases with clarity: step, place, step, place. Later on, you will be guided to observe 3 phases in each step: lifting the foot, moving it forward, and placing it down. Eventually, your awareness will expand to include a 4th phase: lifting the foot, moving it forward, placing it down, and pressing the foot against the ground. At this point, you will be instructed to mentally note each of the 4 phases clearly: lifting, moving, placing, pressing. At first, the practitioner may find it difficult to slow down their steps. However, once they are instructed to observe the movements of the feet closely, paying mindful attention to each motion, they will naturally begin to walk more slowly. There is no need to force the body to slow down. Rather, when mindfulness deepens and attention becomes focused, the slowing of movement arises on its own. It is much like driving on a highway. One may drive at 100 kilometers per hour, but at that speed, it is impossible to notice every roadside sign. If one wishes to read those signs, they must naturally slow down. No external command is necessary. Slow down. The driver will reduce speed on their own in order to read the signs. In the same way, when the meditator pays close attention to the movements, lifting the foot, moving it forward, placing it down, and pressing it into the ground, they will automatically slow their steps. Only when walking slowly can mindfulness sharpen and full awareness of the movement arise. Even when the practitioner is walking slowly and maintaining close observation, they may still not see all the distinct phases of each step. The stages may remain unclear in the mind, and the movement may appear as one continuous action. But as concentration deepens and mental clarity increases, the practitioner begins to distinguish more clearly the separate phases of the step. They will recognize that the lifting of the foot is not blended with the forward movement, that the act of moving the foot forward is separate from placing it down, and that placing the foot is distinct from pressing it into the ground. These movements become clearly perceived and mentally differentiated. What the practitioner observes and contemplates becomes vivid in their awareness, distinct, refined, and unmistakable. As the meditator continues the practice of walking meditation, they begin to observe more subtle phenomena. When lifting the foot, they experience a sense of lightness. As the foot moves forward, they directly experience the movement from one location to another. When placing the foot down, they feel a sense of heaviness, because as the foot lowers toward the ground, it naturally becomes heavier, and as the foot touches the ground, they can feel the sensation of contact between the heel and the earth. Thus, alongside the observation of the 4 phases, lifting, moving forward, placing, and pressing down, the meditator also becomes aware of the lightness of the lifting movement, the flow of motion in stepping forward, the heaviness in lowering the foot, and the tactile contact of the sole touching the ground, whether the sensation is hard or soft, firm or yielding. In perceiving these processes, the practitioner is, in fact, experiencing the 4 great elements: earth, water, fire, and air. By carefully observing the movements during walking meditation, the essential nature of these elements is experienced, not as abstract concepts, but as direct, experiential realities, ultimate realities. Now let us explore in more detail how each of these elements is experienced during walking meditation. In the first phase, as the foot is lifted, the practitioner perceives a sense of lightness. This lightness is associated with the fire element, one of whose characteristics is to lighten or make things rise. Because lighter things tend to ascend, the sensation of rising reflects the nature of the fire element. Yet, in addition to lightness, there is also motion involved in lifting the foot, and movement is a primary characteristic of the air element. However, because the lightness is more prominent in this phase, we say that the fire element is dominant and the air element is secondary. Both of these elements are experienced when one mindfully observes the lifting of the foot. The next phase is the forward motion of the foot. As the foot moves through space, the dominant experience is that of movement, which is the key characteristic of the air element. Therefore, as the meditator mindfully attends to the stepping forward movement, they are primarily experiencing the air element in action. The following phase involves placing the foot down. In this movement, a sense of heaviness can be felt. Heaviness is a characteristic of the water element. It resembles the thick, cohesive nature of liquid, which drips slowly and has a certain viscosity. When the meditator feels the foot's heaviness during its descent, they are experiencing the quality of the water element. Finally, when pressing the foot onto the ground, the meditator perceives sensations of hardness or softness. This is the domain of the earth element, whose essential characteristic is solidity. By attending mindfully to the pressing of the foot against the earth, the practitioner is directly in touch with the nature of the earth element. In this way, within a single step, the meditator perceives multiple processes. They come to directly experience the four great elements: earth, water, fire, and air, and the essential qualities that define them. Only those practitioners who undertake the discipline of sustained and careful mindfulness will have the opportunity to see and know these truths for themselves. As the meditator continues the practice of walking meditation, they begin to realize that accompanying each bodily movement is a moment of mental noting, a clear awareness of the movement itself. There is the act of lifting the foot, and simultaneously, there is a mind that recognizes the act of lifting. In the next moment, as the foot is moved forward, there is also a mind that is aware of that movement. Moreover, the practitioner perceives that both the movement and the awareness of it arise and pass away together in that moment. The same pattern follows as the foot is lowered and placed on the ground. There is the movement and the knowing of that movement. Both are rising and ceasing together. Similarly, when the foot is pressed down, there is both the pressing and the awareness of pressing. In this way, the meditator understands that alongside each physical movement, there is a corresponding moment of awareness. This moment of awareness is called nama, mind, and the movement itself is rupa, matter or physical form. Thus, the meditator directly experiences the arising and ceasing of nama and rupa at each moment, in one moment. There is the lifting of the foot and the knowing of that lifting, in the next. The forward motion and the awareness of that movement, and so forth. These are experienced as pairs, mind and matter, arising and vanishing moment by moment. If the meditator is keenly mindful, they come to perceive these dual processes of nama and rupa clearly in every step they observe. Another discovery the meditator makes is the role of intention in governing each movement. They come to directly experience that the foot is lifted because there is an intention to lift. It moves forward because there is an intention to move. It is placed down because there is an intention to place it. And it presses down because there is an intention to press. In other words, the meditator realizes that before every physical action, there is a preceding mental volition. It is only after the intention to lift arises that the lifting actually happens. Through this, they come to understand the principle of conditionality, that nothing occurs without a cause. These bodily movements are not created by a deity or any external force. Nor do they occur randomly without a cause. Each movement has a condition. and that condition is the prior intention. This is what the meditator comes to realize through mindful observation. With this understanding of conditionality, that all actions arise dependent on causes, and not due to the will of any divine power, the practitioner clearly understands that it is intention that conditions action. They see that volition is the determining factor behind physical movements. From this, the relationship between the conditioned and the conditioning, between cause and effect, becomes clear. Based on this insight, the meditator overcomes doubts about nama and rupa, recognizing that neither mind nor matter can arise without supporting conditions. With a clear understanding of this law of dependent origination, and having overcome uncertainty regarding mental and physical phenomena, the practitioner is said to have reached the stage of a lesser stream enterer. A sotapanna, or stream enterer, is one who has entered the stream of enlightenment and attained the first stage of awakening. The lesser stream enterer is not yet a true stream enterer but is considered to be firmly on the path and is destined for rebirth in fortunate realms such as the human or celestial planes. Such a person can no longer fall into the four lower realms of suffering, hell, animal existence, the realm of angry spirits, or hungry ghosts. This level of insight, reaching the stage of a lesser stream enterer, can be achieved through the diligent practice of walking meditation, by maintaining continuous mindfulness of each step and movement. This is the highest benefit of walking meditation, though not easy to attain. Once the meditator reaches this level, they can be confident that they will be reborn into a fortunate existence, unless, of course, they later commit unwholesome actions that lead to downfall. When the meditator comes to understand that nama, mind, and rupa, matter, arise and pass away in each moment, they also come to comprehend the impermanence of the walking process itself, as well as the impermanence of the awareness of that process. The presence of cessation following arising is the mark or characteristic of something that is impermanent. If one wishes to determine whether a phenomenon is permanent or impermanent, one must observe, through the power of meditative concentration, whether that phenomenon is subject to a process of arising and passing away. Only when one's meditative capacity becomes strong enough to perceive this process clearly can one truly discern whether the observed phenomenon is impermanent. Through this method, the meditator observes the presence of the movement of lifting the foot and the corresponding awareness of that movement, followed by their disappearance. These are succeeded by the movement of stepping forward and the awareness of stepping forward. These actions and their corresponding awarenesses arise and cease, and the meditator directly realizes this process through their own experience, not through reliance on any external authority or on the testimony of others. When the meditator realizes that nama and rupa arise and cease, they understand that nama and rupa are impermanent. Upon seeing their impermanence, the meditator subsequently sees them as unsatisfactory, because they are constantly oppressed and afflicted by the process of arising and passing away. Following this realization of impermanence and unsatisfactoriness, the practitioner sees that these phenomena cannot be controlled, that is, they directly perceive that there is no self or soul within capable of commanding or sustaining them. Phenomena arise and cease according to natural law, not by the will of a self or any external power. Through this profound understanding, the meditator comes to see the third characteristic of all conditioned phenomena, the characteristic of non-self. This is the recognition that all phenomena are devoid of a self, that there is no owner, no entity, no soul, no power, that can exert mastery over them. Thus, at this point, the meditator has fully realized the three universal characteristics of all conditioned phenomena: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. This realization can be attained through carefully observing the movements of walking and the awareness accompanying those movements. By continuously and mindfully attending to these bodily processes, the meditator perceives the arising and ceasing of all phenomena and, through direct experience, comes to realize the impermanent, unsatisfactory, and non-self nature of all conditioned realities. Let us now examine in detail the movements involved in walking meditation. Suppose we were to film the act of lifting the foot. Let us further assume that lifting the foot takes 1 full second, and that the camera is capable of capturing 36 frames per second. After filming, if we observe each frame individually, we will see that although lifting the foot appears to be a single movement, it is in fact composed of 36 distinct movements. Each frame reveals a slight difference in position, subtle changes that often go unnoticed. Now, suppose the camera could capture 1,000 frames per second. In that case, we would observe 1,000 tiny movements within a single act of lifting the foot, though these movements might be extremely difficult to distinguish. If the camera could capture 1 million frames per second, which is not yet technologically possible, but may become so in the future, then even within what appears to be a single act of lifting the foot, we would see 1 million discrete movements. The effort in walking meditation is to perceive movement as if with a high-speed camera, frame by frame. We also aim to observe the accompanying awareness and intention preceding each movement. In this way, we come to admire the profound wisdom of the Buddha, who saw all movements with perfect clarity. When we speak of seeing or observing in our context, it means that we partially perceive directly and partially infer. We cannot, as the Buddha did, directly see 1 million movements in an instant. Before engaging in walking meditation, practitioners may assume that a single step involves only one action, but after meditative observation, they begin to recognize at least 4 distinct phases. Upon deeper contemplation, they understand that each of these 4 movements contains within it countless micro-movements. Thus, they perceive nama, mind, and rupa, matter, arising and ceasing in each moment, revealing their impermanent nature. With ordinary perception, we cannot see the impermanence of phenomena because it is obscured by the illusion of continuity. We assume we are witnessing one continuous action, but if we look more closely, we will see that this illusion can be broken. This illusion is dispelled by directly observing physical phenomena piece by piece, moment by moment, as they arise and cease. The true value of insight meditation lies in its capacity to dismantle this illusion of continuity and uncover the reality of impermanence. Through their own effort, meditators can directly realize this impermanent nature. Upon realizing that all things are composed of discrete parts, that they occur in broken sequences, and after observing each fragment individually, the meditator arrives at the direct insight that nothing in the world is truly worth clinging to or desiring. If we perceive something we once considered beautiful as full of gaps, decaying, and disintegrating, our desire for it fades. For example, when we admire a beautiful oil painting, we may believe that the paint and the canvas form a solid, unified object, but if we examine it under a powerful microscope, we will see that the painting is full of gaps and empty spaces. Once we see that the painting is made up of holes and emptiness, our interest in it diminishes, and we no longer feel attachment to it. Modern physicists understand this concept well. With advanced instruments, they have observed that what we call matter is merely the vibration of particles and constantly shifting energy. There is no inherent essence within it. By directly realizing this ceaseless impermanence, the meditator understands that there is nothing in the phenomenal world worth craving, and nothing worth clinging to. Now that we have understood the rationale behind the practice of walking meditation, we recognize that we engage in this practice in order to uproot all forms of clinging and attachment to things. Through the understanding of the 3 characteristics of existence, impermanence, suffering, and non-self, we loosen the bonds of attachment. We relinquish attachment because we do not wish to be afflicted by mental defilements. As long as clinging and attachment persist, suffering will inevitably follow. If we wish to be free from suffering, we must eliminate clinging and attachment. We must come to understand that all phenomena are merely mental and physical processes arising and passing away, without any inherent substance or self. When we directly realize this truth, we are able to let go of our attachment to things. Without such realization, Even if we read many books, attend numerous lectures, or engage in intellectual discussions about renunciation, we will not be able to free ourselves from grasping. What is essential is that we gain direct personal experience in seeing that all conditioned phenomena bear the marks of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. Therefore, we must be mindful not only when walking, but also when sitting, lying down, or engaging in any posture. I do not intend to suggest that only walking meditation leads to ultimate realization and complete abandonment of attachment. However, walking meditation is as valuable as sitting meditation and other insight practices. It encourages the development of the mind and possesses the same potency as practices such as mindfulness of breathing or mindfulness of the rising and falling of the abdomen. It is an effective tool for removing unwholesome mental states. Walking meditation fosters the wisdom needed to perceive the true nature of all things. We must therefore put forth effort in practicing it with the same dedication that we apply to sitting meditation and other meditative disciplines. Through the diligent practice of insight meditation in all postures, including while walking, I sincerely wish that you, and all meditators, may attain complete purity and liberation in this very life.